All right, all right. Happy Monday, everybody. Thank you guys for hopping on. I know St. Patty's Day was yesterday, so some of you guys that went out and got a little cray cray, we appreciate you guys for hopping on. For anybody that was like me, parent, taking care of the kids, we didn't do any of that. Just had some good time at the house. Thank you for jumping on the call and being responsible. I'm just kidding, but happy Monday, everybody. My name is David Fleming. For those of you guys that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I've been a part of this amazing company. It's a blessing that we're a part of this, but for about 2.5 years now. For those of you guys that don't know my story, I'll make it really quick. 10 years ago, or for about 10 years, I built a business with my buddies, Nick Greco, Mike Guerra, Dan Hoyt, and, it was travel based. Some stuff happened, COVID happened, and basically the company had to go went under. And I was in a place in my life where I was looking for something, because I knew I didn't want to get a job. I was self-employed in that previous venture. I knew I didn't want to go out and work for somebody. I knew that I wanted to go and build my dreams because I tried doing it and I kind of got there, but I had no control over the situation of what happened. And so one of my really good friends, Nick Greco, talked to me on insurance, getting started. At first, I was very like hesitant, giving him some pushback. We went Christmas shopping for the girls, and he was on the phone with, I think, Hutch, like talking, "Hey, you want to talk?" Like, "Nah, I'm good." And then I was in the December, and then I remember he started in January. Couple months in, he talked to us again. I said, "Show me some checks." He showed me some checks, and Megan can, she knows how the ARC pays out and how the deposits show. So he showed me a nice deposit. I think about 2 grand in a week. Lucky for us at that time, the owner of the company, Mr. Andy Albright, was actually doing an event in Denver a couple days later. So I finally said, let's do it. Next thing you know, we met Andy. We met some of the people in the alliance. He flew us to Dallas on his jet, talked to him on the plane, kind of game plan a little bit about how we're going to do this. And I mean, ever since then, it's just been nothing but a blessing. The alliance has been, amazing to us as a group, our families, and we got to meet so many amazing people throughout this journey. One of them is actually on the call with us. And a little bit about Megan. I personally haven't had a chance to talk to her face to face. We haven't had a conversation, seen her here and there. But I know a lot of our leaders have, and they've talked so highly about her just because of how much of a badass she is. Let me tell you something about her, guys. When she started this, she was getting her degree in finance. So about 8 years ago, was that about right? 8 years ago.
Yep. Yeah.
Originally from H-Town, Texas girl. And
Yeah.
let me tell you guys, when I tell you her numbers, you're gonna be like, wow, I need to pay attention. Last year, she issue paid 421,000. All right. Year to date, she's about 62,000. All right, 43 apps in. That's just from I think they stopped on the 11th, the report that I saw. So I'm pretty sure it's
Mhm.
higher now. But this girl and her husband, top 10 producers in the alliance, qualified to go to Alaska. This girl's a badass. I mean, she literally has this business down, and we only have people that are going to provide value to our team and growth. And she is definitely one of them just because of her numbers. There's a saying out there that goes, people lie, numbers don't. And after those numbers that I just read to you, y'all need to pay attention to this chick because she is going to bring the fire. She's going to bring the heat. And not only that, but she's doing it being a mom, right? So she has a daughter, right? 15 months.
Mhm.
Not only that, but she's preggo. She's pregnant right now. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Still kicking butt. So guys, please help me welcome Miss Megan Yeakey.
Thank you. I know you go by you're known as like Panda, but Nick called you Dave this morning. So are you Dave, David, Panda? Like, what's your friends call you?
My friends call me Panda. You can call me Panda.
Panda. Okay. Well, it's noon here, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm in Texas. Thanks for jumping on wherever you are from. But yeah, like Panda said, I've been around for about 8 years. And a little bit of backstory on me and kind of how I got here is my mom, my parents, Mike and Michelle Alleman, they actually started with the Alliance back in '07. So I have been working with the Alliance since 2016, but I was introduced to the culture and the company in 2007. And I think I was 14 or so at that time. So it's pretty crazy to think about how how far we've come and how much how it was great then, but how it's like only getting better, and how the industry is life changing. I knew that when I saw the opportunity in 2016 for myself after I had just graduated college and all that. But I was also it was also proven to me through the work of my parents, and that not only did it work, but it worked tremendously. I had this example of here's what you can have. And some of those things that really caught my eye, I mean, there's a lot of people on here today, and I don't know exactly where you're coming from or how long you've been here, but I want to give you some perspective on how I came into the business and what proof I had that that compelled me, like Panda had. Nick showed him the check, right? Like there is a lot to say about having the proof. We all want to know that it works. And so just a few things. I come from a family of 4 children. So there's me, and I have 3 brothers. I'm the only girl. And it was important to my parents to, buy us cars when we turned 16, to pay for our education. And all 4 of us have bachelor's or master's degrees. And they also, it was important to them to take us on vacations and to have experiences as family. And those are the things that they got, that they did for us. When they first joined the business in 07, I remember my parents sitting down with us and saying, here's what we're going to have to sacrifice as a family, but here's what we're going to get from it. Okay. And they fulfilled on all those things. They bought all of us cars when we turned 16. They paid for all our education. Not one of us have student loans. They paid for my wedding, which was not a cheap wedding. And there was all this proof. And so I just tell you that to say, like, you're in a good place. You've got great people around you that will show you the way. And from a financial standpoint, it's uncapped. It's just a matter of what you're trying to achieve, what your target is, and where you're trying to get to. So that's kind of how it was before I got here. And then in 2016, that's when I made the decision of I'm actually gonna, go in all in. I had just graduated in December of 2015. I actually went to a conference in January of 2016 with the Alliance. And I went not knowing that I was going to become an agent, and here I am now. But I went going to see John Maxwell. I was like, dude, it's John Maxwell is going to be there. Why would I not go? And so I decided to go, even though I wasn't planning on doing this. I was still looking for a job. And that weekend changed my entire life. There's been a lot of life-changing moments at events, but that one in particular really changed everything about my life.
So let's pause there real quick, because you said some really good stuff prior to that. Number one, you saw this business as a base teenager. Your parents sat you down, and this is good advice. I mean, she's telling her story, but she's also giving some of you guys that are parents, myself included, advice as to, the expectations to set with your family, because this is a business where you are going to have to cut time maybe away from the basketball game, maybe away from cheerleading practice. I've done that personally, and focus more on the business. But not only did they plan it out, they delivered, right, Megan? Like, imagine if they told you guys that and then they didn't do anything after, right? You could be like disappointed. And here's the thing, because they delivered, she got to see, like, okay, I can get these things also with insurance. Pushed her enough to go to an event, and we'll talk about the event towards the end. We'll talk about the power of like what the event can do to someone. But she went just to see one specific person, Mr. John Maxwell. If you don't know who he is, he's an amazing author, has dozens of books. Like, look him up. All right. One of my favorite books is the Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. But basically, this guy's a personal development speaker, writer, author, whatever. And because of the fact that she went to an event is where she got the alliance got into her. There's a saying of, when you go to the event, it's like the event gets in you, right? The people, the culture, the company, everything. Amazing stuff. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So you go to this event, you jump in as an agent. Um, tell us your journey from there. Like, how was your start? Was it a quick start? Was it like, was there pain? Was there some, pushback? Like, tell us, you got
Yeah.
started. How did it go from the beginning?
Yeah. So I think my experience, it might be similar to some of y'all's on here, but when I first got started, I looked at I looked at what I had around me. What were my resources, right? Um, and a lot of times we just jump to leads or we jump to our warm market, or we jump to whatever your resources are. When I was getting started, I was 22 at the time, and I thought, well, shoot, if none of my friends probably think they need life insurance, and if any of my family needs life insurance, my mom is sure as hell already sold them. So that was my mindset. So I thought my strategy here is going to be going towards leads. I was going to invest in leads, but I didn't really have a ton of extra money to spend on leads. So I figured out a way. I used my connections and I started delivering, and this is true, I started delivering barbecue to get cash to buy leads. So I was delivering barbecue for one of my friends' restaurants because I came from the restaurant world. While I was in school, I was managing restaurants full time. And so I did that. And every week I would go and I would deliver some barbecue, take that money, and I'd buy leads. And then over like it was probably 6 weeks. It wasn't very long, 6 or 8 weeks. I'd take that money, reinvest it into leads, and I was consistent with that. And then eventually it got to the point where my buddy was like, "Hey, can you deliver today?" And I was like, "No, I've got appointments," because the appointments started being, in place of that time. And I knew I was going to make way more money, clearly, obviously, by going and sitting on those appointments. So that's how it got started. January was when I made the decision that I was going to do this, but it took maybe 6 or 8 weeks to start to ramp up. And then I stayed consistent at spending 250 a week in leads really ever since then. I think I may have started at 100, and then it was 150, and then it got to 250, and then I've never really done less than that since then.
Okay, perfect. And that's something that I want to eventually dive into. But I mean, when you were saying that you that's what you did to make some money for leads, like, I'm talking about hustle mentality right there. Like, some of you guys are out there. I mean, I've talked to some of these agents, and they're like, $50 is like too much for you to spend on leads. And it's like, what, we're trying to make money here, right? You gotta, and Andy Albright says this all the time, scare money don't make money, right? And so from the beginning, you hear Megan, like, in her journey, like, she wasn't scared to invest. She had to get resourceful, right? But you still figured it out, right? What would you say to a new agent now that's like, that's like a pushback that they're giving you? Maybe they're just like afraid of investing in these leads from the beginning, because you're saying 250, right? And us now that are kind of seasoned, I feel like I'm still new, but you've been in the game for like 7, 8 years. I'm pretty sure that you don't invest 250 anymore. You probably do a little bit more than that, right? So what
Yeah.
would you say to some agents that are having that mindset or mentality?
Check yourself. I mean, you're in business, right? How are you supposed now? There are some people, and there's proof that you can door knock your way into winning the trips, and you can be resourceful and do events. I'm not saying it's not a one size, it's not a one, you got to do it one certain way, but it's been proven time and time again. And just from a business owner perspective, not even in the insurance business, but you've got to invest in your business to have revenue. And you can't, it's, you're not going to go to McDonald's and say, "Hey, I want a burger and some French fries." And then they go and they, do what they need to do to make the burger and the French fries. Then they invest in that, right? No, it doesn't work that way. You got to invest first, and then you've got to have, belief and faith that it's going to work out, but you also got to have the work ethic behind it. You can't just buy leads and sit on them. I wish that clients would just call our phones and be ready to buy insurance, but it doesn't work that way. And I don't want to, nobody wants to make you believe that it does, right? And so, yeah, leads are crucial to keeping cash flow.
Right.
Now, to actually having consistent money every week.
Right. And about like if you were to throw out a number out, what are you and your husband investing in weekly on leads? Like what's that number like?
Weekly, we consistently do at least 500 a week weekly. Um, and that's alongside our book of business, that's alongside referrals, that's alongside um, all the things. And then every now and then we throw in another batch of 2,000 here or there.
Right.
Um,
That's about where I'm at as well. I mean, and here's the thing, like she's been in for 7 years and she's still investing. Seven, is it 7 or 8? 8 years, right? 7?
8, yeah,
Seven,
8.
my bad. So 8 years, and she's still investing money into her business. And no, there's no wonder why her numbers are the way they are. And she's top 10 right now in the company. Her and her husband is because they invest in their business. And here's what's cool. And I'm starting to see some of this is as your book of business grows, you have, especially in the CRM that we have, you have these clients that you can go back to, and those are basically free leads. Those are your current clients, but are you also calling them? Are you setting up appointments? Have you
Heck
sold to
yeah.
some of these current clients?
Yeah, I think we've got a book of like 2,200 clients now. Now, when you're first building your business, like you were in the race to build your book of business as fast as you can to, just call it 200 clients and then 500 clients and then 1,000 clients, right? You're just trying to continually build that because current clients are the best clients. They are already buyers and you already have a relationship. And there's so many ways that we can help them working with the alliance. Like we do all things financial services, really. And so there's never, and people's life is constantly changing. And so the recommendations that I'm going to make for a family are going to change over time because life changes. I mean, shoot, since I first met my clients in 2016, I've gotten married, bought a house, had a baby, almost two babies. I mean, if my life has changed that much, I know my clients' lives are changing too. So there's always going to be room for additional or other things to recommend.
Okay. So one of the things now when you guys first started, you guys obviously, most people, we like to get our new agents on mailers. Those are the forms that people fill out for final expense. You guys started that way, I'm assuming. Can you talk
Mhm.
about how you started with the leads? So what leads you started buying from the beginning, and where you guys are today, because it's not like
Yeah.
overnight you went from mailers to virtual, because you and your husband now do virtual. But as you heard, they build a book of business, so that's some of their virtual sales that they've got. We'll talk about what they're doing now, but can you kind of talk about that real quick?
Yeah. I think it's such an important part of building like your base as an agent. Like you've got to get really consistent at doing one thing and doing one thing really well before you kind of start to add and transition. And so we spent years, um, I mean, from 2016 to 2020 at least. So 4 years at least and longer, really, buying direct mail leads. But and going in person in the field face to face with our clients, that's what we did. I mean, and so we were spending the same, I would say, on final expense mortgage protection, and we always did a mixture. We were never like one or the other, but we just stayed consistent every week. Somewhere between 250 and 500 a week is where we were always spending. And then we would consistently book 10 to 20 appointments a week each if we could. But that's where we were. I mean, that's what we did consistently for really until 2020 happened. And then we kind of had to transition into doing some sort of virtual selling. And then we went hybrid, and now we're kind of 100% virtual.
Nice. And how long have you guys been virtual? Like how long has it been since you guys have been selling virtual?
100%. About 6 to 8 months before my daughter was born. I realized at that point I needed to transition for our business. And so about May of 2022 is when I started really changing my mindset that that's what I was going to commit to, because confidence comes from making decisions and being committed. Like I'm going to make this firm decision. This is what I'm going to do. Now, don't get me wrong. I have sat with my clients in person since then, and there's been exceptions here or there, but to be successful and to transition like that so drastically from 100% face to face to 100% virtual, I had to just decide that it was what I was going to do, because I knew it was going to be hard. It was something different than what I was used to doing. But I had to make that transition so that I could still sell at a high level, because that was important to me. I love the connection with our clients. It's one piece, and I love the just solving the problems financially. Like I've always just enjoyed that piece of what we do. And so I wasn't ready to give that up when I became a mom. And so I had to plan ahead. And so about 6 to 8 months before I had my daughter, I just decided that I was going to 100% transition to virtual.
Something that I wrote down as you said it was confidence comes from making decisions and staying consistent. I don't know if you guys caught that because I've talked to people about that, like just the confidence. I don't have I didn't have the confidence either. You know, Megan didn't, but
Yeah.
because we did the work, right? It just naturally comes, right? Like we don't know, like, you know, when she had her first baby, I'm sure things were new, but how did you become a
Yeah.
better mom every day? By just taking care of your baby, right? There's no like
Yeah.
people can write a book, but in reality, it comes from just taking action and raising your kid. That's how you learn how to be a mom. And I love what you said. Now let's talk about this because you and your husband, your numbers out of y'all are out of control with these numbers. I mean, they're just crazy. I mean that in a very good way.
They're not where I want to be, but thank you.
And that's Z, but that's the attitude you gotta have, right?
Yeah.
Like they're good nut to us, they're good numbers, but to someone like you, you're like, nah, I could do way better. So talk, let's shift
Yeah.
gears, all right? Because honestly, we've done a lot of virtual sales trainings, and I'm glad that you guys are having a lot of success. But one thing that I know our group wanted to bring you on is because you and your husband, you guys have amazing numbers, right? But one thing that I want to talk to you about is what does it take, all right, to go from when you got started to the numbers that you had last year to the numbers that you're generating this year? Like, what does it take to be a top producer as far as like, you know, you can talk this however you want, but as far as like
Mhm.
action goes, and then talk to us about like the mindset, right? Because now you're in a different position than you were 5 years ago where you're a mom, right? But it doesn't seem like that slowed you down, right? So can you talk
Right.
about like what it takes to be a top producer, whether you're single, a mom, or just talk about that.
Yeah. So activity wise, um, you cannot be afraid of rejection. Rejection's going to happen. I saw this somebody said it. I don't know where it was, but professional, like high performers, professional salespeople, like people who do really well, top one percenters, they're just professional losers at the end of the day. Like we take more rejection than most people take in their maybe their even whole lifetime, right? Because you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that you've got to be okay with before you take massive action. Um, and the massive action and activity is going to lead to the results, but you can't be afraid um, to take some L's, because it's a part of the game. It's a numbers game, and it's a connection game. It's a people game. So you've got, the first thing is, before you take the activity, just be okay with it. Like nobody's going to hurt you. It's just a phone call. And having that, staying consistent and having the confidence and deciding that beforehand will just make it easier for you as you go into your activity. So the activity is going to look different for everybody. If your target is 10,000 a week, submit, or whether your target is 2,000 a week, submit, and you work part-time or full-time, your activity numbers are going to look different. So I would tell you to, and you probably already have, but get with the person who's directly helping you to kind of strategize on how many leads do you need a week? How much do you need to be spending? And then what does that translate to as far as how many dials you need to be making, or um, contacts and appointments? Like that's what you need to be thinking about, is how much am I going to spend? So what are my resources going to be, and how much am I going to spend? And then what's the dial activity? Because behind that, you can't really control too much. Now you're going to get better on the phone because you're putting in massive activity. That's just by default going to happen. But before you even do that, decide how much you're going to spend, where your resources are going to come from, and then figure out a game plan on how much activity you can put in, and when, right? Because a lot of people are part-time. And that's what I love about this business. Like, you can be 100% in and make an incredible income, but you can also be a part-time and be doing something on the side, or have another full-time job and doing this on the side and make an incredible part-time side income. So regardless of what it is, so it's hard to quantify the activity numbers because a lot of you are in different places, but regardless, whether you're part-time or full-time, massive action and committing to that beforehand, and knowing that you're going to get the no's and that you're just searching for the yeses, you will find them. As far as like the being a top producer, what the mindset behind that goes is, I've found that there's a couple of things that just you got to have. And sometimes you don't have this, and that's fine. It might not be natural to you, but you can learn and educate and show up to events and get around the right people, and they can help you become this person. But I believe that you've got to be bold. You can't be afraid, right? So boldness is the first thing. You've got to stay motivated. And you can be motivated by other people, but I'm talking about like internal motivation. Like, are you somebody who can wake up in the morning and get motivated, like, for the day, and motivate? And even if you can't, like, can you just pick up the phone and start making a few dials, right? Because that'll get you motivated once you start it. So I'm not saying you have to be that every day, because that's not realistic. It's life. Life happens. But can you still wake up and do the action to lead to the motivation to keep going? And then I also believe that number 3 would be connection with your clients and your agents as if they were your own family. Like, do you treat everybody like you would expect somebody to treat your own family? Like, if it was your brother, somebody you care about, or your uncle, or your aunt, or your grandmother, or your mother that you're sitting with. Like, I just try to think about, where is this person? What's the age of this person, and who does that relate to in my life, that I can try to stem somewhere like in my heart, so that I can translate over the phone or through Zoom that I truly care about their situation as if it were my own family. The next thing I would say that you need is going to be grit. Like, you've got to be able to continue through. So you got to be bold, you've got to be motivated, you got to have connection as if they were your own family. You've got to have grit. So, patience comes with grit. You've got to be able to push through and wait, right? Sometimes. But also the fifth thing is the ability to follow through all the way through. So you said you were going to do this for the client, but did you follow all the way through? Or you said you were going to do this for your agent, but did you close that? Like, did you get it all the way done? So those are like the mindset kind of behind how to be successful and to stay successful, and as far as being top performer and producing.
Wow, that's amazing. A lot of great stuff there. God. And one thing I love what you said, I actually do this too, is the connections with the clients. I wrote this down, with your agents as if they were like your family. Like with Legacy Live, we have a big like
Yeah.
family culture. And I think a lot of people see that, like, like Mike and Nick, those are like my brothers. Rachel's like a sister to us. So, we have that, but also with like our clients, like that, you're absolutely right. When I sit down with someone, I tell them too, like, hey, I'm gonna talk to you as if like someone was talking to my mom. And when you say something like that, like they're just automatically like, oh, okay, this guy really cares. You got to show them that you care, right? Okay, so one thing I want to ask you is,
Mhm.
you know, as far as like association, like there's no, you're not a top producer because you just sit behind a desk or you just make some dials, right? I'm sure that there's been a lot of times because I've seen you at some of the Houston events that Mike has had some
Mhm.
hot spots and also like the company. We'll get to the view and talk about that specifically. But can you tell us like how important is to be around the campfire? And by that I don't mean like just your specific agents and the people you're working with, but just in general, whether it's personal development people or people that, can help you, level up. And like how important is that to you and how close do you stick to the fire?
Well, out of the last 8 years, there hasn't been like a trip that I've missed. There hasn't been an event that I've missed because here's the thing. I mean, when you have a job, you show up and you get to go into the culture. You get to show up at that place every day and you're there. And that might not even be the best culture, but you're still surrounded by other people that are probably like-minded. Well, to have something different and to not necessarily follow the status quo, you're gonna have to shift your you've got to shift your surroundings if you're not where you want to be, right? And so you got to get around people who are going to challenge you and show you that there's other things out there. And no, I mean, when I look back on the last really like since '07, I know because my parents have been bringing me to these events since I was a kid. Not every single one, of course, but I remember being at at events with NAA. Like I was at an event the night before my prom. It was in Dallas, and I remember driving back to Houston the day of, and I brought my boyfriend with me. It was funny at that time, of course, but you know, it's it's got to get in you, and the only way to get it in you is to show up and connecting with other people is invaluable. Like to network with you guys and to see you and to meet you and shake your hand and to spend time in the beaches or in Alaska or wherever we go. Like there, you just can't quantify how that changes not just your revenue, but like even your personal piggy bank, like how I react with my friends or my children or how I decide I'm going to parent. um, it just makes you better. And I can't quantify that in dollars, but I can tell you for sure that I would not financially be in the place that I am now. But I also know for a fact I wouldn't have the wisdom that I feel like I've gained just by being involved with the alliance and with the people that I've been able to associate with here. And honestly, even with the wisdom I gain from clients, association is key when it comes to growing. And when you stop growing, you're dying, right? And so it sometimes, actually, a lot of the times, actually, let's just say all the time, it's uncomfortable to be uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable to commit to something that, especially 4 times a year, where I'm going to financially commit, I'm going to invest my time, but I cannot tell you how it's changed my life, my husband's life, my family's life. It's not quantifiable, but I can tell you that I've never regretted going and I've never regretted showing up and I've never regretted working my butt off to make sure that I qualified for every single trip, because those are where the real, like, true connections get made. You can network at the events, but we're there to learn too. And so there's not as much time for networking as there is on these trips. So,
Yeah, and even on the trips, I mean, you get so much time with like, I mean, Alaska's gonna be my first trip, but so I'll get to hang out with everyone there and yourself and your husband.
yeah.
But like even like when Mike and Nick came back from, Ireland, they talked about how they got to spend time with, Riddle. They spent time with not just Andy Albright, but just all the top leaders, Olga and Jason Mathis, and they actually made a connection and had a talk and they took something from there and applied it to their business. And it's like no wonder why they have such a massive team and they're killing it also in personal production. But it's because they learned something from these people. And not only like the trips that you went, but also like the training events that the Alliance has. They don't have to do that for us. They don't have to put on these events. They don't have to
Mhm.
promote it. They don't have, but I don't know if you've noticed this, Megan, but doesn't it seem like the people that go to these events, right? And bring people with them, isn't it crazy how those are the people that like outshine everyone else that doesn't, right? And
Yeah.
so you guys have hit this regional manager, right?
Yes.
and and it's not because you went to one or two events and didn't bring anybody in, right? Or didn't
Right.
bring anybody with you. It's because you guys brought a team. You went, obviously you're leading from the front. Your team's not going if you're not going, but the view is coming up, right? And
Mhm.
I believe the last view that was in Denver was your first view. It was the first view of the Alliance, right? Um,
Mhm.
can you talk to us really quick about because it's literally right around the corner for the next one that we have in Raleigh. But what was your experience? Because you've been to other events, so maybe talk
Yeah.
about the difference that the view had, like what the difference from those events to the view. And even though we had sales training there, it was very unique because Marcus Setta just brought another level of personal development and growth and sales training to it. But can you tell us your experience, what maybe like what you thought it was going to be and what you got out of it? And just for someone that's new on here that has a ticket or is thinking about going, so that way we can get them to actually just go ahead and go.
What's funny is like Marcusetta coming into the Alliance has been totally full circle for our family because in '06, my parents actually went to a Marcusetta event with World Ventures at the time, I believe. And then and then and then that next month or the next 3 months, they found the Alliance. And it was like, and then now that Mark's back, it was all kind of crazy. So I had no idea what to expect about the view before we went to it. But I know that the way that my dad spoke about it, and the way that our leaders spoke about Mark was that it it was gonna be something I had never seen before, and it was gonna be illustrated in a way that I could take differently than what we had really ever been to. And it delivered. I mean, he delivered. It was incredible. I've always been somebody who like loves theater, loves show, and I think that all of us can relate to the fact that some that you sometimes can see something through the lens of something else. Maybe it's music that you can like resonate with, right? Or it's a movie or it's a show or it's but that's how Mark is illustrating how the sales training is by having these characters. And it was so interesting to see because he would switch characters throughout the entire day and even involve other people, which was fun to watch. But it was pretty incredible to have him illustrate what he was trying to say and the principles behind what we do through the illustration of characters. Um, I love that was just my favorite part of going to the view in Colorado. I think it was in Denver, right? So I think that was just my favorite part was just seeing him illustrate it from the character's point of view. I took it in a way that I have never taken it before. Um, and so yeah, if you've never been to the view, it's unlike anything you've ever been to. I can tell you that unless you've been to one of his the View conferences before, and it's really incredible.
Yeah, and it's crazy how I'm glad that you shared that about, your parents. I feel like the alliance was just meant for you because like everything has come full circle. Your parents did it, then they set the expectations. You went to an event, you missed prom. I'm just kidding. You went before prom, right? And then, coming back with Marcusetta coming to coming on board with the alliance, and now you get to see him and what he's done with the company and the training system that we have. Okay,
It's all
great.
divine timing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You
But I
gotta
feel
see
like
that. That was my story, but even like your story has similar things. It's just and everybody's story. You're here for a reason, and you've got to see it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you, for coming on board. Like, here's the thing, guys. We play team in the Alliance. You guys have seen us bring people to these calls, and they have no financial gain from, any of us. If all of us go out here and kill it tonight or today, this week, Megan makes no money from that. But because of that training and the leadership that we have with the Alliance, we play one big team, right? Because any of us would do the same thing for her and her group, and that's just how we roll here, and that's how we play here. So really quick, just while I put on the chat, if some of you guys have questions for Megan, if you guys can just go ahead and write it on the Q&A. But as far as like the rest of the year goes, I know you're about to
Have a
pop any
baby.
minute. Yeah. But just real quick, tell us like what you're doing now to get ready for that, and then what you expect, you and you, because it's a dual team that you're working with. Like, what do you
Yeah.
expect to end the numbers with? Is that going to be, an issue where you're not going to work for a while? Because this has happened before with your first baby. But talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit, and then we'll see if some people write some questions on the Q&A.
Yeah. So our game plan the last time was we're going to take a month off and we're going to be with our baby. And that worked well for us the last time. This time we're going to take a few weeks, readjust, take the time that's necessary right after something so life-changing. And we're getting back to it. Like, we just have that mentality of well, first off, it's our own business, right? We're responsible for our business and we're responsible for our clients, and that matters to us. So it's not a big deal, if we need to make a call here or there. Like, it's just not a big deal to us to do that stuff. It's not, it's what we love to do. There are clients when we take care of them, and our agents when we take care of them, right? But so that's kind of how we're game planning for this second time around. But we don't plan to slow down. Like, actually, we have the biggest goals we've ever had. Like, I think last year we issued like 420,000. Like, we would love to double that, but I think we're trying to get to like at least over 500,000 that she paid this year, and that's 100% doable. And so you can't slow down. Momentum is a big thing in this business, and when you lose your momentum, it is hard to build it back up. I mean, that's where that like grit really has to come into play, because when you're trying to build your momentum back after losing it, you got to stay mentally strong. And so we don't want to necessarily lose that completely. And so we're just going into it, going to take the time off that's necessary to adjust from a family of 3 to a family of 4. But we're going to do it all, and we're just going to figure it out day by day.
Love it, love it. And I love how you did 400K last year with a kid. Now you have baby number 2. It's like challenge accepted. Let's just go above and beyond. Let's hit 500K. And I'm pretty sure with your work ethic, your husband's work ethic, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to get that done. All right, we do have a question on the Q&A for you, Megan, real quick. How much of that 400K last year was on overrides, and how much is it just in personal sales?
So that was just our personal sales. That 400,000 that she paid was our personal sales.
Oh, wow. And I'm sure you had some overrides though, also.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a big producer, so I believe that. All right. Hey Megan, I'm just getting started. Just wanted to meet you. Also, I live in Houston. All right,
What's
Charles.
up, Charles? Yeah, we're
Um,
right in between Houston and Galveston, little town called Kemah. So we're on the outskirts, we're in the suburbs over
I'm
here.
sure there's a Buc-ee's around there too, right?
Yep.
Okay, so just real quick, I'm gonna touch up on the view a little bit more, but before that, I just want to say, Megan, thank you so much for jumping on this call. You've added a lot of value. I've got a bunch of notes on here. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got a bunch of notes that I wrote just from this call. And is there anything that's just before we let you go, that's just in your heart that maybe you want to share with our group? Any agents out there, new agents, maybe some you want to share with, tell them that you haven't covered yet before you take off?
Yeah, I just want to tell you guys, you're in the right room. Like, you're with the right people. You're at the right place, and you've got an opportunity that, regardless of what your target is, what you're trying to hit, you can achieve it. It's just going to be a matter of what are you willing to give up to get it. And it's not forever, but it's temporary. And so I would just tell you you're with the right people, make decisions, make firm decisions and commit to those decisions, and then stay strong and stay consistent. I look forward to meeting you guys at the next event and hopefully seeing a lot of you at the next trip, which is in Cabo. So don't forget about that. That starts now.
Yep. Yep, just got to take action.
Yeah,
Awesome. Well, Megan, thank you so much. I wish you nothing but the best, with this
same.
pregnancy, and to keep you guys in prayer, while you're
Thank
going
you.
through that part. But anyways, you are a rock star. Your numbers, they speak for themselves. And, a lot of, like I said, Nick, Mike, Rachel, they talk really highly of you. I haven't had the chance to actually had a conversation until today. But I
Yeah,
promise you at the next one, we'll talk a little bit more of me, you and your husband.
for
Because I
sure.
definitely learned a lot from you today. So I appreciate it. Guys, that was Megan. She is a rock star. Just keep, all of us, you can log into the ARC and just look at production numbers, and she's top 10, like always on there. Like her name, her and her husband's names are always on there. All right, before we wrap up, this call is recorded, so we will send it out. I just want to really quick share about the next event. People always say, what's the most important event that I need to be at? Or it's the next event, which is the View from the Edge. Just like Megan said, Mark does something to you. He hits you emotionally when he's up there. And honestly, that's where you have the most growth, in my opinion. You realize more about yourself. Now, you guys are like, well, what does he actually do? So Mark does this it's kind of like a play, right? He dresses up as different characters. He calls it edutainment, because while he's educating you on a specific topic, whether it's sales or personal development, he's also entertaining you in a way. And he's been doing this for multiple years, and now he's brought the View from the Edge to the Alliance. And Megan, a lot of the agents that have been around the Alliance, a lot of them went and got so much out of it, just because that's what Mark does at these events. It gets you emotionally. You make big decisions at big events. This next event, you guys don't want to miss. Mark Aceta is bringing new characters. Even if you've been to the View from the Edge before, he's told us that he's going to have different characters. I think maybe out of the 17, one of them is going to be the same. But other than that, they're all going to be new. Not only that, but we have top speakers like Megan, producers that are actually in the field, that are going to be training us as well, recruiting, training us as well. Actually, one of our fearless leaders, Mr. Nick Greco, is going to be one of the speakers there. And every time, I've heard Nick speak so many times, but every time I hear him speak, it's like I'm hearing him speak for the first time. Like I always learn something. I always take what he trains and just apply it to my business, and I have tremendous growth. And so I'm telling you guys, get your tickets. There's still some discounted tickets floating around. If not, go to the ARC, View from the Edge, purchase you a ticket. Yes, is it going to cost you money? Of course. Yes, is it going to cost you time? Of course. But we have had a mom today on the call that is doing this, being a mom, before being a mom, and now being a mom. She's still going to the events, and then you wonder why, like, she's having so much success. So if someone like Megan, who is a mom, or a mom of one, about to be a mom of two, is still investing her time and her money to go to these events, like, why don't you? Why don't you just let that fear go and just take a leap of faith and get registered? Because I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how you get there. It doesn't matter where you're staying at. Get your ticket, because once you get your ticket, then now you're locked in to go, right? Now you have to figure it out, right? Now you have to figure it out. So, and one thing I always tell people is, like, don't ever say I can't afford it. Just say, how can I afford it? Because when you start using different words, you start thinking differently. Once you say I can't afford it, you just stop thinking. But if you say how can I afford it, then the wheels start turning. All right. So I don't know how you're going to get there. I don't know where you're going to stay, but get your ticket, because once you get your ticket, everything else will figure itself out. And a lot of you guys last minute have done it. I'm very proud of you, but we need to get more people registered. So make sure you get registered for the View from the Edge. Mark Aceta, Nick Greco, Fitz, a lot of the top trainers are going to be there. It's going to be one of the best events of the year, one of the biggest events that we've had in the Alliance. You don't want to miss it. Guys, thank you for jumping on this call, Legacy Life. We've changed the times. I think this is the third week now. We're doing it at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure that you change that every Monday. And so we're gonna have someone else on the call next week giving us value and applying knowledge. But again, thank you, Megan, for jumping on this call. Legacy Life, I'm checking out. If you guys have any questions, love y'all. God bless.